The grand auditorium fell completely silent. Professor Zith Kalar stared at Jake with all four eyes wide with shock. The hundreds of alien faculty members and students seemed frozen in their seats, waiting to see what would happen next. Jake reached up slowly and removed his vocal modifier. His natural human voice filled the hall for the first time in months. You are absolutely right, Professor Zethkalar. Humans have been infiltrating your educational institutions. And I should know because I am one of them. Jake pulled off his bio-makeup patches, revealing his true human features underneath. His brown hair, his pale skin, his distinctly human facial structure. Gasps and alarm sounds erupted from the audience. My name is Jake Morrison. I am a human from Earth, from the North American continent. I have been in your xenobiology class for 4 months, learning about how you see my species. More shocked sounds filled the auditorium. Some faculty members stood up from their seats. Others activated their data pads, probably to alert security. Jake continued speaking before anyone could stop him. Everything I told you in my presentation is true. Every fact, every statistic, every story. I know these things because I am human, and these are the achievements of my people. Professor Zethkalar's skin had turned almost black with shock and anger. Security, arrest this infiltrator immediately. Wait, Jake said, holding up his hand. Before you do that, let me ask you something. For 4 months, I sat in your class. I took your tests. I participated in discussions. I earned the highest grades in xenobiology theory. Jake looked around the auditorium. Did my humanity make me stupid? Did my emotions prevent me from learning? Did my short lifespan stop me from understanding complex concepts? The professor opened his mouth to speak, but Jake continued. You praised my analytical skills. You called my insights remarkable. You said I had one of the finest academic minds you had encountered in years of teaching. Jake smiled. Were you wrong about all of that, Professor? Before Zethkalar could answer, something unexpected happened. A student in the front row stood up and removed her own disguise. Her real face was clearly human, with dark hair and Asian features. My name is Lisa Chun, she said in accented but clear galactic standard. I am also human. I have been studying advanced engineering at this institute for 6 months. My professors have consistently rated my work as exceptional. Another figure stood up in the middle section. A young man with curly red hair pulled off his biomask. Danny Rodriguez, human, studying galactic law. I am currently ranked 2nd in my class. Then another. Amy Jackson, human xenobiology department. I have been Professor Veltar S. research assistant for 3 months. One by one, 7 more students revealed themselves as humans. Each one announced their real name, their field of study, and their academic achievements. The auditorium buzzed with shock and confusion. Jake felt a surge of pride and fear. His fellow humans had chosen to support him, even though it meant giving up their own cover. Dean Quill Ara, the feathered one who had introduced Jake, fluttered her wings nervously. This is unprecedented. How many humans are enrolled in galactic educational institutions? More than you might think, Jake replied. We are not here as spies or saboteurs. We are here to learn. We want to understand other species, to find common ground, to build better relationships. By lying about who you are? Professor Zeeth Kalar demanded, his voice shaking with anger. By proving our worth, Lisa Chun answered. How else could we have gained access to advanced education? If we had applied as humans, would we have been accepted? The question hung in the air. Everyone in the auditorium knew the answer. Most galactic institutions had unofficial policies against admitting humans, considering them too primitive for advanced study. Jake stepped forward. Professor, 6 weeks ago, you assigned me a research project to prove that humans were capable. Well, here is your proof. 10 humans have been studying at this prestigious institute for months. We have earned top grades, contributed to research projects, and participated in academic discussions. You did not know we were human because we proved ourselves through our work, not our species. We succeeded because you judged us by our abilities, not your prejudices. A crystalline professor in the back raised a glowing appendage. But the infiltration itself proves human deception and dishonesty. Amy Jackson, a xenobiology student, stepped forward. Does it? Or does it prove human determination? To overcome prejudice through merit? We could not change your minds about our species by arguing. So we changed your minds by showing you what we could accomplish. Danny Rodriguez nodded. In galactic law, there is a principle called demonstrated competence. It means that actions matter more than assumptions. We have demonstrated our competence. Professor. Zeth Kalar looked around the auditorium at his colleagues. Many of them were nodding thoughtfully. Some were checking their own student records, probably wondering if they had humans in their classes too. This changes nothing, the professor said desperately. Deception is still deception. These students violated admission protocols. Dean Kolara cleared her throat. Actually, Professor, I have been reviewing the relevant regulations during this discussion. The students enrolled under the Outer Rim Exchange Program, which allows citizens of any galactic species to apply for educational opportunities. But they used false identities. They used alternative names and appearance modifications, the dean corrected. The program does not specifically require students to reveal their species of origin, only their academic qualifications. Jake could see the professor's argument crumbling. Dean Koilara, are you saying that what these humans did was legal? I am saying that what they did was unprecedented, but not necessarily against our regulations. The dean's feathers ruffled as she thought. Perhaps our admission procedures need to be reviewed. A rock-person professor spoke up, his voice rumbling like an earthquake. These humans have presented compelling evidence of their capabilities. Their academic performance has been excellent. Perhaps we should judge them by their achievements rather than their origins. More faculty members began to nod in agreement. Jake could see opinion in the room shifting. Professor Zeth Kalar made one last desperate attempt. Even if their performance has been adequate, this infiltration could be part of a larger human plot against galactic institutions. Jake shook his head. Professor, if we wanted to harm these institutions, would we work so hard to excel in them? Would we spend years learning your languages, studying your cultures, earning advanced degrees? We are not here to destroy or conquer, Lisa Chun added. We are here to learn and grow and prove that humans can contribute to galactic civilization. Jake looked directly at Professor Zeth Kalar. 6 weeks ago, you challenged me to prove that humans were capable of advanced thinking. I believe we have done exactly that. The question now is whether you are capable of changing your mind when presented with new evidence. The professor stood silent for a long moment, his skin cycling through several colors as he processed everything that had happened. Finally, he spoke. Student Morrison. Jake Morrison. Your presentation was the most comprehensive analysis of tactical psychology I have encountered in my career. Your insights into human behavior were profound and well supported. The professor paused, seeming to struggle with his words. I have spent over 100 years studying different species. I believed I understood humans based on my research and observations, but I never considered that my research might be incomplete or biased. Professor? Jake asked quietly. I think. Zeth Kalar's tentacles moved slowly, showing deep thought. I think I may have been wrong about your species. Not just wrong, but fundamentally wrong. The auditorium erupted in surprised chatter. Students and faculty members began talking excitedly. Among themselves, Dean Koilara called for order. I believe this situation requires careful consideration by the full academic council. In the meantime, I see no reason why our human students cannot continue their education while we review our policies." Jake felt a wave of relief wash over him. Around the auditorium, he could see his fellow humans smiling and embracing each other. Professor Zeth Kalar approached Jake slowly. "Student Morrison, would you be willing to guest lecture in Amwai Xenobiology class? I think my students would benefit from hearing about human psychology from an actual human." Jake grinned. "I would be honored, Professor, but I think my classmates might have some insights to share as well." As the auditorium began to empty, Jake realized that something important had changed. For the first time in galactic history, humans had proven themselves not through conquest or force, but through intelligence. Dedication and academic excellence thought the age of underestimating humanity was finally over. The soft hum of the life support systems filled the quiet halls of Celestial Haven. Commander Zara Veltash walked slowly through the gardens, her long blue fingers checking each plant with care. The morning light came through the large windows, making the leaves shine like jewels. She had been doing this same routine for 3 years now, and it brought her peace. Zara stopped at a small purple flower that grew in a quarter tank. This one came from a world called Nexus 7, where the soil was made of crushed diamonds. The flower needed special care to grow here, far from its home. She understood how it felt. She too was far from home, but she chose to be here. The research station floated in space around the moon, Desha Prime. It was a safe place where different races could study plants and animals without fighting. Number. Weapons were allowed here. No politics, no war. Just science and quiet days. She touched the flower gently. Its petals felt soft like silk. Back on her home world, she had been a soldier. She had fought in 3 wars and seen too many friends die. The smell of burning ships still came to her in dreams sometimes. That was why she came here. To forget. To find peace. "Good morning, Commander," said Dr. Keth Morvan as he entered the garden room. He was also from her world, a tall man with the same blue skin and silver hair that all their people had. He carried a data pad and looked worried. "Morning, Keth," Zara replied without looking up from her plants. "The Nexus flowers are blooming early this season. I think the new light system is working well." Keth nodded, but did not seem happy. "The flowers look good. Yes, but we have a problem." The long-distance sensors picked up something strange. Zara finally looked at him. She could see the worry in his dark eyes. "What kind of strange?" "A ship. It looks damaged. The design is not in our computer files. We have never seen anything like it before." Zara put down her watering tool. In all her years here, they had only seen ships from the known races. The Corvani, the Velthans, the Zephyrians, and a few others. All peaceful people who came to trade or study. "Show me," she said. They walked to the control room where the big screens showed the space around their station. Aria, the computer brain that ran the station, spoke in her calm voice. "The unknown vessel is drifting at low speed toward our system. It shows signs of battle damage. Hull breaches in 3 sections. Power levels are very low." On the main screen, Zara could see the ship. It was smaller than most ships that came here, but it looked strong. The metal was gray and rough, not smooth like the ships her people made. Strange symbols were painted on the side, but Aria could not read them. "Any life signs?" Zara asked. "One life form detected, weak but alive. The being appears to be in some kind of sleep state." Keth shook his head. "We should report this to the Corvani Council. Let them decide what to do. This could be dangerous." Zara stared at the damaged ship on the screen. She thought about the being inside, alone and hurt in The cold space, maybe running from enemies, maybe lost and scared. How long before the ship reaches our system? She asked Arya. At current speed, 6 hours and 23 minutes. And how long for a council ship to get here? The nearest council vessel is 4 days away. Zara closed her eyes. The rules were clear. Unknown ships should be reported to the council first. But 4 days was too long. The being might die before help came. Commander, Keth said softly, I know what you are thinking. But we are scientists, not rescue workers. We have no medical equipment for unknown races. We don't even know if they breathe the same air we do. Arya, can you scan the being's needs? Do they need the same kind of air and temperature as us? Scanning now. The life form breathes oxygen and nitrogen mix, similar to Corvani needs. Body temperature is close to yours. Blood appears to be red instead of blue, but chemistry is not too different. Zara made her choice. Send out the rescue pod. Bring the ship and the being to Docking Bay 3. Put emergency shields around the bay in case their ship has dangerous things on it. Commander, please think about this, Keth said, his voice getting higher. This could be a trick. What if they are scouts for an enemy army? What if they carry disease? What if they just need help? Zara cut him off. We took an oath as scientists to help all life when we can. I will not let someone die in space because I was too scared to act. Arya began the rescue process. The station's small pod flew out toward the damaged ship. Zara watched on the screen as the pod's grabbing arms took hold of the strange vessel and pulled it slowly toward home. Prepare Medical Bay 2, she told. Arya, get the universal medical scanner ready and put a force field around the whole medical section. If our guest is dangerous, we can contain them there. Keth sighed but began to help. I hope you know what you are doing, old friend. So do I, Zara whispered, still watching the screen dot as the rescue pod came closer to the station. She felt something she had not felt in years. Excitement, fear. The unknown was coming to her peaceful world, and she did not know if she was ready for it. The docking bay doors opened, and the strange ship was pulled inside. The doors closed, and the bay filled with air. Zara and Keth put on protective suits and walked to the bay. The ship looked even stranger up close. The metal was scarred by weapons fire, and one wing was almost torn off. Arya, is the being still? Alive? Yes, Commander. Life signs are weak but stable. Zara looked at the ship's door. It was closed tight, and she could not see how to open it. Can you figure out how to get inside? The door mechanism is simple, but different from our designs. I can open it safely. There was a soft hiss, and the ship's door slid open. Inside, Zara could see a figure in a strange white suit, sitting in a chair. The being was not moving. Let's get them to medical, she said. They carefully moved the unconscious being to the medical bay. As they removed the strange helmet, Zara gasped. The face was similar to theirs, but different. The skin was pink instead of blue, and the hair was brown. The features were strong and somehow familiar, even though she had never seen anything like this being before. Fascinating, Keth said, forgetting his fear for a moment. The bone structure is very similar to ours, but the muscle development is much different. This being is built for strength and speed. Arya began her scans. The being is male. Age appears to be in middle adult range. He has been in artificial sleep for several days. Waking him up now would be safe. Do it, Zara said. She watched as the being's eyes slowly opened. They were blue like the sky on her home world, but brighter somehow. He looked around the room with confusion, then tried to sit up quickly. Easy, Zara said in the common galactic language. You are safe. We rescued you. The being stared at her for a long moment, and spoke in a voice that was deeper than she expected. Thank you. he said in the same language, but with a strange accent. "I am Captain Jake Morrison. I think I owe you my life." Jake Morrison sat up slowly on the medical bed, his blue eyes moving around the room. Everything looked strange to him. The walls were smooth and white, with soft lights that did not hurt his eyes. The air smelled clean, like flowers after rain. "Where am I?" he asked, looking at Zara and Keth. "What happened to my ship?" "You are on Celestial Haven Research Station," Zara replied. "Your ship was badly damaged when we found you. We brought both you and your ship inside our docking bay." Jake nodded and tried to stand up. His legs felt weak, but he managed to stay on his feet. "How long was I out?" "Our scans show you were in sleep mode for about 5 days, Keth said, checking his datapad. "Your body shows signs of fighting and stress. What happened to you?" Jake's face became hard, and his hands made fists. "Pirates. Or maybe something worse. They came out of nowhere near an old space station. Big ships, black and red colors. They did not try to talk first, just started shooting." Zara felt a chill run through her body. In all her years in this peaceful part of space, she had never heard of unprovoked attacks. "Did you try to communicate with them?" "Of course I did," Jake said, his voice getting louder. "I sent friendship signals on all the common channels. But they just laughed and kept firing. Said something about humans being a disease that needed to be stopped." "Humans?" Keth repeated the word slowly. "Aria, do we have any records of this species called humans?" "No records found in any galactic databases," Aria replied. "This appears to be first contact with an unknown race." Jake looked surprised. "You don't know about humans? How is that possible?" "We have been exploring space for years now. The galaxy is very big," Zara said gently. "Many races exist that others have never met." "Where do you come from?" Jake pointed toward one of the windows. "A system called Sol. Our whole world is called Earth. It's about 200 light years from here, toward the outer rim." Zara and Keth looked at each other. The outer rim was mostly empty space with only a few small colonies. No one paid much attention to that area. "Tell us about your people," Zara said, sitting down in a chair near the bed. "How did you develop space travel so quickly without anyone knowing?" Jake's eyes got bright, and he smiled for the first time since waking up. "Humans are good at figuring things out fast when we need to. We went from flying in the air to reaching space in less than 100 years. Then we spent 50 more years learning to travel between stars." "That is very fast," Keth said, sounding amazed. "Most races take thousands of years to develop that kind of technology." "We had to move fast," Jake said, his smile fading. "Our world was getting crowded, and we were running out of some important things we needed. So we learned to reach for the stars." Zara studied Jake's face. There was something in his eyes that made her nervous, a hardness that she had seen in soldiers before. "Have your people fought many wars?" Jake was quiet for a moment, then nodded. Slowly. "Too many. We fight when we have to. Sometimes we fight even when we should not. It's not our best quality, but it's part of who we are. But surely your people prefer peace?" Keth asked. "All intelligent races want to avoid fighting." Jake laughed, but it was not a happy sound. "I wish that were true. Humans have been fighting each other since the beginning of our history. Wars over land, resources, ideas, even things that seem silly now. We only stopped fighting each other when we found bigger things to worry about in space." Zara felt her stomach tighten. This was exactly what she had run away from. The endless cycle of conflict and violence. What bigger things? Hostile aliens, dangerous space creatures, worlds that try to kill you just by landing on them. Space is not as peaceful as your station here. Jake looked around the clean, quiet medical bay. This place feels like paradise compared to most of the galaxy I have seen. The galaxy is mostly peaceful, Kath said. The major races work together through the council system. We solve problems with words, not weapons. Jake stared at him like he had said something impossible. Really? No wars? No fighting over resources or territory? There are disagreements sometimes, Zara admitted. But we have not had a major war in over 200 years. Most races have learned that cooperation brings better results than fighting. That sounds amazing, Jake said, but his voice had doubt in it. I hope it stays that way. But the things that attacked me did not seem interested in cooperation. Arya's voice filled the room. Commander, I have finished analyzing the damage to the human ship. The weapons that attacked him are not in our databases either. The energy patterns are unknown. Can you describe the ships that attacked you? Zara asked. Jake closed his eyes, remembering. Bigger than anything I had seen before. Dark metal with red symbols painted on the sides. The ships moved in formation like a military fleet. Very organized. Very deadly. How many ships? At least 20 that I could count. Maybe more hiding behind the first group. Jake opened his eyes and looked directly at Zara. They were not just random pirates. This was an invasion force. The room became very quiet. Zara felt cold fear creeping into her heart. Invasion force? Invading what? I don't know, Jake said. But they were moving toward the inner galaxy, toward the more populated systems. They seemed to know exactly where they were going. Kath put down his datapad with shaking hands. We need to contact the council immediately. If there is a hostile force moving into our space, they might not listen, Jake interrupted. I tried to contact local authorities when I first spotted the enemy fleet. Most of them did not believe me. Some laughed and said I was seeing things. One group told me that humans were probably the real problem and hung up on me. That is not possible, Zara said. The council investigates all reports of hostile activity. Maybe they do, but they move very slowly. By the time they decide to act, those black ships could have attacked a dozen worlds. Jake stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the stars. On Earth, when we see danger coming, we act fast. Sometimes too fast, but at least we act. Zara watched Jake stare into space. She could see the worry and anger in his body language. This human carried the weight of knowledge that no one else would take seriously. What were you doing near that old space station? She asked. Jake turned back to face her. Exploring, looking for signs of other intelligent life. Hoping to make friends? He smiled sadly. I guess I found both friends and enemies today. You are safe here, Zara said. This station is neutral territory. No one fights here. For now, Jake replied. But if those ships are really an invasion force, nowhere will be safe for long. Outside the window, the stars looked the same as always, peaceful and distant. But Zara could not shake the feeling that Jake was right. Something dark was moving through their quiet galaxy, and her peaceful life was about to end. The station shook again as another blast hit their shields. Sparks flew from control panels, and the lights flickered. Zara held onto her chair as the floor tilted under her feet. Shield strength down to 60%, Arya reported. At current rate of damage, shields will fail in 18 minutes. Jake ran his hands over the control panels, studying them quickly. Arya, show me everything this station has. Weapons, tools, power systems, everything. Captain Morrison, this is a research station. We have no weapons. Everything is a weapon if you use it right, Jake said. Show me the mining lasers. Mining lasers are designed for cutting rock samples. They are not built for combat. They cut rock. They can cut ships. Where are they? On the main screen, a diagram of the station appeared. Jake pointed to different sections. What about these atmospheric processors? The ones you use to make air for the docking bays? They create breathable atmosphere from basic chemicals, Arya explained. Can you reverse the process? Make something that burns or explodes? Zara stared at Jake. You want to turn our life support systems into bombs? If it keeps us alive, yes. Jake looked at her with those intense blue eyes. Your people are good at building things. My people are good at breaking things. Right now, we need both skills. Another blast shook the station. This time, the lights went out for 3 seconds before the emergency power kicked in. Shield strength down to 40%. Arya said. Jake turned to Keth. You know these systems better than anyone. Can the mining lasers be aimed at enemy ships? Keth looked nervous, but he started working on his data pad. The mining array has targeting sensors for finding metal deposits in rocks. I suppose those sensors could lock onto ships instead. Do it. Arya, how much power does the main reactor produce? A fusion reactor produces enough power for all station systems with 30% excess capacity. What if we shut down everything, except shields and weapons? How much power would that give us? Shutting down life support, artificial gravity, and non-essential systems would increase available power by 50%. Do it, Jake ordered. Wait, Zara said. Without life support, we will run out of air. How long can we survive? Jake asked Arya. With 3 people in the control room, approximately 4 hours of breathable air. 4 hours is better than 18 minutes, Jake said. We can worry about air after we deal with the big ships trying to kill us. The station went dark, except for emergency lights. Zara felt her stomach drop as the artificial gravity shut off. She grabbed onto a handle on the wall to keep from floating away. Mining lasers are now under manual control, Keth said, his voice shaking. But they are not very powerful. They will barely scratch those big ships. We are not trying to destroy them, Jake said, pulling himself over to the weapons control. We just need to confuse them and buy time. On the screen, the hegemony ships were getting closer. Warlord Krex's flagship was in the front, its massive guns charging for another shot. Arya, can you make the atmospheric processors release gas clouds around the station? Yes, but why would we want to hide ourselves? The enemy ships have advanced sensors. We are not hiding. We are creating a light show. Jake started pressing buttons on the mining laser controls. Release all the processed gases at once. Then hit them with every light and laser we have. That will create a massive explosion, Arya warned. I know, Jake said with a grin. Zara watched in amazement as Jake worked. The human moved with confidence, even though he had never seen these systems before today. He was making up a battle plan as he went, using tools that were never meant for fighting. Gas release in 3.2.1. Arya counted down. Space around the station filled with colorful clouds of gas. Then Jake fired all the mining lasers at once. The beams hit the gas clouds and created huge flashes of light that lit up the darkness like fireworks. What was the point of that? Keth asked. Watch their formation, Jake said. On the screen, Zara could see the hegemony ships slowing down and spreading out. They were being more careful now, not sure what the light show meant. They think we have more weapons than we really do, Zara realized. Exactly. Now they have to worry about what else we might have hidden. Jake was already working on the next part of his plan. Arya, do we have any communication satellites around the system? 3 satellites provide communication links to nearby systems. Can you take control of them? Yes, but they are only communication devices. Communication devices send signals. Signals can jam enemy sensors. Jake looked at the screen showing the enemy fleet. Send out false signals on all. Frequencies? Make it look like Corvani warships are jumping into the system. Arya paused for a moment, generating false sensor readings. This deception will not work for long. It does not need to work for long, just long enough. The hegemony ships stopped moving forward. On the communication channel, they could hear enemy voices talking quickly in their strange language. The fleet was confused, looking for threats that did not exist. But Warlord Krex was not fooled for long. His angry voice came over the speakers. Clever. Tricks, human. But tricks will not save you. All ships, focus fire on the station. Ignore the false signals. The entire enemy fleet turned their weapons toward Celestial Haven. 15 sets of massive guns began to charge up for a killing shot. Jake, Zara said quietly, what do we do now? Jake was staring at the power control panel. His face was calm, but she could see his hands shaking slightly. Now we do something very stupid or very brave. I am not sure which. What are you talking about? The reactor core. If we overload it and then eject it toward the enemy fleet, that would destroy the station, Keth said, his voice full of horror. The station is going to be destroyed anyway, Jake pointed out. At least this way, we take some of them with us. Zara felt cold fear in her stomach. There has to be another way. Maybe, but I cannot think of one. Jake looked at her with sad eyes. I am sorry, Commander. I brought this war to your peaceful home. No, Zara said firmly. Warlord Krex brought this war. You just gave us a chance to fight back. The enemy ships finished charging their weapons. In seconds, they would fire enough energy to turn the station into space dust. Arya, begin reactor overload sequence, Zara ordered. Commander, are you certain? This action cannot be undone. Zara looked around the control room. At Keth, who had worked beside her for 3 years. At Jake, who had shown her that sometimes fighting was the only way to protect innocent people. At her quiet, peaceful life that was about to end. I am certain. Do it. Reactor overload initiated. We have 4 minutes before core ejection. On the screen, the enemy fleet opened fire. But instead of running away or surrendering, Celestial Haven fired back with everything it had. Mining lasers, communication jammers, gas clouds, and the desperate courage of people who refused to give up. The battle for the research station had begun. The reactor core glowed brighter and brighter as energy built up inside it. Red warning lights flashed everywhere, and Arya's voice counted down the time they had left. 3 minutes until core ejection, she announced. The hegemony ships fired. Their massive weapons at the station. The first blast knocked out the remaining shields completely. The second blast tore a hole in the outer hull near the docking bay. Air rushed out into space through the opening. Hull breach in Section 7. Arya reported. Emergency barriers activated. Jake grabbed Zara's arm. We need to get to the escape pods. Now, what about the plants? Keth asked, looking toward the garden sections. Years of research will be lost. Better than losing our lives, Zara said. Though her heart broke, thinking about her beautiful flowers dying in the cold space. They pushed themselves through the corridors using handholds on the walls. Without gravity, moving was hard and slow. Behind them, more explosions shook the station as enemy fire kept hitting. 2 minutes until core ejection. Arya said they reached the escape pod bay, but Jake stopped suddenly. Wait, someone has to. Stay and aim the reactor core at the enemy fleet. If we just eject it randomly, it might miss. Arya can do that, Zara said. Arya's guidance systems are damaged from the weapon's fire. Manual control only. Jake looked at the control panel for the core ejection system. Someone has to stay here and fire it at exactly the right moment. Keth grabbed Jake's shoulder. You cannot be serious. That is suicide. Maybe, but if that core hits Warlord Krex's flagship, it will take out half their fleet. The other ships might retreat. Jake's voice was calm, like he was talking about the weather. Your people can warn the galaxy about the hegemony. Stop them from attacking other worlds. Zara felt tears in her eyes. There has to be another way. Sometimes there is no other way, Jake said gently. Sometimes good people have to make hard choices so that other good people can live. Through the window, they could see the hegemony fleet moving closer. Warlord Krex's huge flagship was right in the middle, its red symbols glowing like evil eyes. 1 minute until core ejection. Arya announced. Jake started working on the manual controls. Get to the escape pod. When the core explodes, you will have maybe 30 seconds before the shock wave hits. Use that time to get as far away as possible. I am not leaving you, Zara said. Double quotes. Yes, you are. Because someone needs to tell your people what happened here. Someone needs to warn Earth that the hegemony is coming. Jake looked at her with those bright blue eyes. Will you do that for me? Zara wanted to argue, but she knew he was right. The galaxy needed to know about this threat. I will find your people. I will tell them what you did here. Thank you. Jake smiled, and for a moment he looked like a young man instead of a warrior. Tell them that Jake Morrison died fighting for friends. They will understand. Keth was already in the escape pod, calling for them to hurry. More explosions rocked the station, and pieces of metal fell from the ceiling. 30 seconds until core ejection. Arya said. Zara grabbed Jake's hand. What was your grandmother's name? The one with the garden? Betty Morrison. She grew the best tomatoes in Ohio. Jake squeezed her hand. Why? I want to plant a garden on Earth someday. In her memory, Jake's smile got bigger. She would like that. 20 seconds until core ejection. Zara let go of Jake's hand and pushed herself toward the escape pod. She looked back once and saw him working calmly at the controls, getting ready to aim humanity's first and last strike against the hegemony. The pod doors closed just as Arya counted down the final seconds. Core ejection in 3.2. Through the pod's small window, Zara watched the bright ball of the reactor core shoot out from Celestial Haven. Jake had aimed it perfectly. The core flew straight toward Warlord Krex's flagship like an angry star. The hegemony commander must have realized what was happening because his ship started to turn away. But the core was moving too fast, and space is very big. There was nowhere to run. When the reactor core hit the flagship, the explosion was brighter than the local sun. The huge enemy ship disappeared in a ball of fire and energy. 3 other ships that were too close also exploded or were badly damaged. The shock wave from the explosion hit their escape pod and sent it spinning away from the battle. Zara held on tight as the pod tumbled through space. When it finally stopped spinning, she looked back toward where the station had been. Celestial Haven was gone. Only pieces of metal drifted where her peaceful home had existed for so many years. Jake was gone too, along with all her plants and research and the quiet life she had built. But the hegemony fleet was running away. The remaining ships were damaged and scared. They had learned that sometimes peaceful people fight back, and when they do, they fight with everything they have. Corvani rescue ship approaching, the pod's computer announced. Arrival in 6 hours. Zara floated in the small pod and watched the enemy ships disappear into the distance. She thought about Jake's stories of human determination, about his grandmother's garden, about the choice between peace and standing up to bullies. 6 months. Later, Zara stood on the bridge of the Corvani battleship Harmony, wearing the uniform of a fleet commander. The ship was part of a joint task force heading toward a small yellow star called Sol. The hegemony had been quiet since the battle at Vesha Prime, but intelligence reports said they were building a bigger fleet. Earth needed to be warmed. Humanity needed allies. In her quarters, Zara kept a small pot with a single purple flower from Nexus 7. It was the only plant that had survived the destruction of Celestial Haven. Found floating in the wreckage by the rescue ships. She watered it every day and thought about Jake Morrison, who had shown her that sometimes the price of peace is war. That sometimes good people have to fight to protect the things they love. The flower was growing well, reaching toward the artificial sunlight in her cabin, just like humans reaching toward the stars, refusing to give up no matter how dark space became. Soon, she would plant a garden on Earth, a garden where humans and Corvani could work together, growing beautiful things in the soil that Jake had died to protect. But first, there was a war to prepare for.